Lyle, multi-super, good run on debut in the Class 4 restricted race. How did you rate that effort from him when he placed?
Yeah, I had high hopes going into the race. I thought that he had shown enough in his trials and his track work to run a bold race, and I think he probably should have picked up second, but he sort of got put under pressure early in the top of the straight by the nice sort superb capitalist, and that sort of had him floundering a little bit. So I think there's a little bit more merit to it, and mentally would have strengthened from that as well.
He jumped really well. Did he just run in the early and mid stages of the race with the choke out a little?
No, he was actually, he's naturally quick, but he doesn't feel it because of his big action. I was looking to possibly cross the lead horse initially, and I thought we were going to end up going too hard, so took it back. He's got a soft mouth, so his head came up once or twice, and then after that he dropped his head on his chest, and he actually raced beautifully, so he's quite tractable.
Okay, he, of course, the winner hacked up in that race, but he wasn't too far away from sort of running second placing, so you were relatively happy with the way he finished off?
Yeah, I was. Like I said, I think he was just left a little bit floundering and out in the open for a long time with the horse pulling away from him, which made it difficult, and like I said, that experience would have only made him a bit better, so I'm expecting him to be an improved horse coming into the race.
What about his barrier trial on December 13? He looked to do that pretty easily?
Yeah, he did. Once again, jumped and travelled well, and extended his action smoothly through to the line. He's a nice type, and I think he's actually versatile. Possibly leading isn't his best option, but it's his gate spin that does help if we have to use that in our arsenal.
I noticed that Ricky Hugh's taken the crossover noseband off. What do you think the theory is behind that?
They've just tried a little bit different equipment and put a different bit on him, so just something more comfortable that he can be slightly more tractable and happy with the bit in his mouth.
David, Flagship Warrior, a horse out of Australia who had group form over there. How'd you come to acquire him, and how's he settled into Hong Kong?
Yeah, I just liked his races. He had showed an electrifying turn of foot at times. Didn't quite stay the mile and a half in the SA Derby, and I just thought it was a good time to pounce. In the lead-ups, he was terrific. And he's got here, settled in really well. He threw a splint when he first arrived, but he's over that now, and I thought his last trial was full of merit.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that. So what was Zach's feedback? Because he rode and he looked like he was really strong through the line and past the line also.
Yeah, he was. Clearly he's going to be looking for much further than 1,000, but there were some good sprinters ahead of him there, and he was all over the back of them through the line. He'll be running on strongly on the weekend, but he's got a very awkward gait.
Yeah, I guess that's not ideal. That's probably not what you wanted to see. Barrier 14, first up 1,200 metres with a big weight, but how do you expect him to perform?
He'll run a bit like the mare did a couple of weeks ago. He'll get back and he'll charge home, but the other factor is, like her, he's got to carry the big weight. So it'll be a huge effort if he can win 1,200, 133, barrier 14. So he's short of his distance, wide, and a big weight. But I do think he's very good.
So you think that the form out of South Australia, of course we've seen Jungle Magnate, now known as BEAUTYVERSE, come out and win here. You think that form is good enough leading into the 4-year-old series?
I think so, yeah. Well, I'm hoping so.
What about the cheek pieces? Because he wore the blinkers in Australia, you've opted for the cheek pieces here.
Yeah, he's shown that. I know I've got them up my sleeve, but I just thought the cheek pieces to keep him sharp for the first couple of races. And he might go into the blinkers depending how he's racing, but he's had every race in Australia in blinkers, so we've got that up our sleeve if we need it.
Safely through the weekend, so what's the plan of attack to get to the 4-year-old series?
He'll probably have one more race over 1,400 leading into the mile, and ideally third run in Hong Kong, 1,600 metres.
Hugh, you ride a new horse to Australia in the form of MAJESTIC colour, quite appropriately won the Winx Stakes at the Sunshine Coast prior to arriving. How did you assess his recent barrier trial? He raced just off the pace.
Yeah, I was happy with his recent trial. I was a little bit questionable about his first trial, which was here at Happy Valley. But his second trial I was satisfied with. He just did everything right. He got into a really good rhythm. That was on the all weather, of course, but he came up the running with a bit of purpose, and yeah, he comes here with some good form and with high expectations, and it's a good starting point for him at Shartin.
He's drawn barrier number 7. He's so middle of the line. Do you expect just to hope he find his feet in the early stages and put him where he's comfortable?
Yeah, I won't rush him into a position, but if we could find a spot midfield or even a bit handier, I'd be satisfied with that. But yeah, I'll just ensure that he's comfortable, certainly for that first half of the race. And I think if he is, he's in the good rhythm. If I can find that sweet spot, there's no reason why he couldn't really challenge late.
In that barrier trial and leading into the weekend, how forward do you think he is for a good showing?
Well, I think he's forward enough to run very well. There's no question that he'll improve on what he does tomorrow, and he'll improve as the distances increase as well. So, look, I'm as interested as everybody else to see how he does begin his Hong Kong campaign, and I think it's a great starting point. And he's, just to reiterate, he's coming off a pretty decent trial, I felt, at the Shartin all-weather.
Frankie, it was a strong performance from KEEFY last time out, obliterating a very good field in the Chevalier Cup. Were you surprised in the manner that he did that?
Yeah, I think he got a chance, but he win by feelings a little bit surprised, yes.
What about the way that he settled into Hong Kong racing? It seems to have been fairly easy and fairly quick. Has he been a good horse to deal with?
Yeah, I hope so. Before last season, I was thinking about he should be suitable for this season, that 4-year-old series, yes.
What's been the feedback from Derek and the riding boys after that last start victory, and what have you done with them since?
I just put Derek gallop yesterday. He's had a good feeling for him, yeah.
He's got barrier 13, which is not ideal, and he's got the big weight to carry. Is he a horse that must go forward, or can you take a little bit of a sit with him?
I think depends by, usually he jump good. I think maybe we can, depends by, if you jump good, maybe we can go midfield, yeah. Big weight, a little bit difficult, yeah.
He's rated 100 now, so he's basically guaranteed a start in the 4-year-old series, so the mile coming up. But do you think he'll stretch out further?
I think a mile, 1,800, still okay. 2,000, but sometimes you don't know. Usually, if the horse good form, I think still can handle, yeah.
Safely through the weekend with him, do you give him another run before the Classic Mile, or will that be it, just a trial?
I think after this one, maybe give him one more trial and then straight to the Classic Mile, yeah.
We've got another couple of horses in the race as well. We know all for St Paul's, he likes to lead, and you've got Celestial Power as well. How are both of those horses?
Both horses still in good form. All for St Paul's, usually he lead should be better, but last time he jumped a bit slow. But he still can come to get a third place, yeah, still good, yeah.
And Celestial Power?
This horse, he always can have a very strong last quarter. I hope this time still he can be finished close. A little bit short the distance, but anyway, good form.
Zach, BEAUTYVERSE off the back of what was an impressive debut win here in Hong Kong. What happened last start?
Yeah, he got it all wrong, of course. He's a horse that has over-raced and done a few things wrong in his races in Australia, which is why they sort of allow him just to relax. But obviously after his first run, when Tony asked me to lead, it worked that day because we drew the outside, and he was probably a length and a half, 2 lengths slow, but he was able to build his momentum up and roll to the front. But having drawn inside, it was always going to be a risk that the other horses were quicker and going to cross him. But Tony wanted me to squeeze him and have him up there, so when he was a little bit slow from the gate and I gave him the squeeze, it just set him alight. He wouldn't stop then, he got his head up, and it all went wrong. So I haven't spoken to Tony, I don't know what we do this time, but yeah, hopefully he can get it right.
Were you happy enough with his trial the other day, because he did have to go back to the trials, didn't he?
He's no good on the dirt. Even prior to him racing, he trialled pretty ordinary on the dirt, so I wouldn't take a line through his trial.
I know you said you haven't discussed it with Tony yet, but he has gone back in his trials. That was his racing style in Australia as well. Is that maybe something you'd like to see this time, take a sit and ride him cold?
Well, the trial, he dropped from a mile back to 1,200 and he had the hood on, he was on the dirt, so he was never going to show any speed. So he did what he'd done in his earlier trials, so it's probably not a real indication on how he's going to race, but I'll just wait until Tony tells me what to do.